Wake up! It's the Sleep Unplugged podcast, episode 172. Sleep hygiene is not insomnia therapy. Save me tonight. Welcome, everyone, to the Sleep Unplugged podcast. My name is Chris Winter. I'm a neurologist, sleep specialist, and your host for this episode of the podcast. If you're new to the Sleep Unplugged podcast family, welcome. If you're a veteran, welcome back. We are glad you are here. It is the first Monday of October, which means it's Insomnia Monday. So we are talking about insomnia. It's right there in the title. And this is a topic that I was discussing with a patient and just immediately thought, wow, why have I not talked about this? Because I talk about it a lot in my clinic. And between that and our listeners' comment, correction, criticism this week, it really all just kind of came together. Really enjoyed doing last week's episode. Really appreciative of Joanna for doing our top 10 sleep threat countdown, which is available. I posted it on my Instagram if you want to see it. Really innovative, really excited for her to participate. She's a fantastic advocate for sleep. Didn't advocate quite enough to keep the government from shutting down and for Medicare to stop paying for telehealth benefits, but hopefully, when the government gets picked back up again, there will be some advocacy and restoration of that. It's been a busy week. I will highlight the wonderful time I had out in Phoenix with the Phoenix Suns, getting them ready for their NBA season. They were incredibly gracious hosts, and I'm excited to be working with that staff for this upcoming NBA season. Comments, thoughts about the show, want to reach to the show, you can. Dr. Chris Winter Instagram, Dr. Chris Winter Twitter, Bluesky Threads. We have a YouTube page where we post all the video content. We have a dedicated web page for the podcast. That's sleepunplugged.com. And in terms of sponsorship this week, we do not, but I am traveling. I'm back in Charlottesville, Virginia, excited to be here and wearing my Dasmian Nat Cool pajamas. Really, really kind of obsessed with them now. I do wear other clothing. So for our listener, for comments, corrections, criticisms, I want to highlight a listener email that I think blends nicely with this episode. Before I do, we'll talk about the musical lyric in the show. It's from Aerosmith, Angel, which was off of their 1987 album Permanent Vacation. This was sort of the first Aerosmith album I really became aware of because it was massive. It was their ninth studio album. They really hadn't had a hit since the 70s, like Back in the Saddle. They went through quite a dry spell. And then, kind of that MTV era, 87 happens, and Permanent Vacation was just sort of a monster. Loved the song Angel. In fact, for a very brief period of time, they were making cassette singles, and I actually went out and bought the cassette single of Angel. I bought two other cassette singles that day, and I remember them. One was the Edie Brickell and New Bohemians song. Um, oh God, What I Am, I think is What I Am, and the other one was In Excess, Devil Inside. So yes, I bought a cassette single, Angel and Devil Inside on the same day. Uh, Aerosmith has always been a group that I've liked. I thought their 10th album, Pump, was an absolute smash. I always use the group Aerosmith when I'm talking to patients and say, "Do you ever fall asleep in weird situations? Like at a friend's wedding or during an Aerosmith concert." Like that's always my go-to example because I can't imagine falling asleep in an Aerosmith example. So I spend time now living down in Florida, which actually is where Steven Tyler and Joe Perry live right now. And so, interesting little trivia as I was getting my Uber to go to the Tampa airport to fly out to see the Phoenix Suns, my Uber driver said, "Do you want to hear a cool story?" I was taking these two guys out to this warehouse studio, and when I got there, they said, "You want to see something really cool?" And he's like, "Sure." So he parked his Uber and they walked inside. And it turned out that the two people he was driving was the artist Youngblood and his producer. And they took him inside and he got to meet Steven Tyler and Joe Perry because they were all working on a song together, which was actually the new song My Only Angel, which is really outstanding. So you should check that out if you need a new Aerosmith song for your playlist. We will put the original Angel 1987 on the Spotify Music Playlist Volume 4 for Sleep Unplugged. We'll also throw on there My Only Angel. And big fan of Aerosmith. Dream On was actually written by Steven Tyler when he was a teenager, I think. He would stay up really late playing around on the piano, half falling asleep. And it's often been thought that this was kind of almost written in his sleep, almost a dreamlike prayer that he had in terms of making it big. Aerosmith and Bowie shared a producer, Jack Douglas, who really, really liked sort of marathon recording sessions because he always felt like that sleep deprived, altered state really made for good recording. So we'll put those on the Spotify music playlist and hope you enjoy that new song. I think it's fantastic, actually. I couldn't get over it. And the guy was like, "Yeah, I just dropped him off, met him, and they were recording that song. It's so cool." So, in terms of comments, corrections, criticisms, I want to read a letter, an email I received from SH, who wrote, "Let me start by saying how much I've enjoyed and benefited from your podcast and your book, The Sleep Solution. I absolutely love the music references and discussion. Anyway, I was curious if you could dedicate a show to some insomnia treatments to address those patients for whom CBTI doesn't work or have had success with it initially and then suffered through a relapse." Yep, you guessed it. I'm one of those people. Just as a background, I was previously a great sleeper. And then about 3 years ago, began experiencing sleep issues, primarily with waking up in the middle of the night. So he goes on to say that he got CBTI. It, quote, worked. And then recently he's been having trouble falling asleep. And now the CBTI is not working. Well, SH, I appreciate you reaching out. I think the answer to this question has a lot to do with the definition of work. When I think a lot of people think about CBTI working, they think there is a sleep problem and you engage in CBTI and that sleep problem is fixed. It's sort of like you've cut your arm, you've put the stitches or staples over the laceration, and eventually the laceration stays closed and your wound heals. Therefore, the stitches worked. We had a problem, the stitches were utilized, and then they worked because now that wound is open. I almost think CBTI is we're not going to change the wound, you're going to adapt to it. Meaning that what did you expect CBTI to do? You participate in some sessions, and then you're never going to have difficulty either falling asleep or staying asleep at night. I think that's the expectation. Like there is some sort of cure. There is never a cure. CBTI fundamentally is not changing sleep, it's changing you. Because if, in my opinion, if the CBTI had worked, you just have some difficulty falling asleep at night. And it either continues for a while or as mysteriously as it came upon you, it disappears. And I think that's the mistake I think when people think about CBTI. I think CBTI always works, but we've got to use my definition of work. And there's so many problems that we have right now with your sleep, which is number one, you wake up some in the night. I don't really necessarily think that's a problem. Number two, you're having some difficulty falling asleep. Great, read a book. I don't necessarily think this is a problem. You've got to define it as a problem for it to work, right? Insomnia only works if you care. I'm going to finish this podcast. I'm hopping in bed with my Dasmian pajamas, and one of two things will happen. I will fall asleep right away. Great. I don't fall asleep right away, as happened either last night or the night before. I can't remember. We were in the hotel room and I just didn't fall asleep right away. I was exhausted actually. Thought I was getting sick and got in bed and thought, okay, this is great. I'm going to get some sleep and try to recover from this September to remember of travel. And I kind of didn't fall asleep right away. I don't care. It's fine. I was resting. I was comfortable in the bed. So I think he said, at the end of the thing is, I think I need to reread your book. I think you do, because I think we need to get away from this idea that we're curing insomnia, that we're preventing an awakening or a delayed sleep onset. No, CBTI works when you accept that these things not only can happen, but they often happen. So pay attention to your sleep schedule. Maybe go to bed a little bit later, get up a little earlier, increase your exercise. But fundamentally, SH, don't worry about it. You're not in any danger. The CBTI always works. Educate yourself about sleep, understand how it works. And as I tell people all the time, the secret to great sleep is being equally happy in bed awake as you are asleep. So, on that insomnia note, I want to move on to the meat and potatoes of this podcast, which is sleep hygiene, what it is, which I think we all know because we are absolutely bombarded with sleep hygiene, and what it is not, which is a treatment for insomnia. So, as we talk about SH, he did the right thing. He engaged with somebody to go through what his hangups are, what his expectations are, what fears are driving his insomnia. You get in bed and you wake up in the middle of the night. What does that matter? Well, it's going to make me not able to do my thing the next day. I'm going to perform poorly. You're talking to a basketball player. I'm not going to shoot well, and I'm going to let the team down, and the team's not going to want me to play with them anymore. And young players going to take my spot, and then I'll be playing over in Europe a little bit, and then even they won't want me because my sleep will be so disastrous at that point that I'll have to retire early, and I don't really have a backup plan. Like that. That's where insomnia goes, right? So the treatment for insomnia is cognitive behavioral therapy. SH, you got a few more steps to go. You've got to get comfortable. You've got to reach that. I think you should get a robe, almost like a monk's robe, when you reach that place with your cognitive thinking about insomnia, which is you become bulletproof. I just watched a documentary about the making of John Wick. John Wick is bulletproof. You wear this black suit, and even the tie is bulletproof. You just hold up the suit, and anybody shooting bullets at you, they just bounce off harmlessly, right? I would invite anybody who has ever watched a John Wick movie. Wick is Pain is a fascinating story about how those movies came to be, and an amazing portrait of Keanu Reeves and his dedication to that role. It's absolutely incredible. Getting back to insomnia. So it's that's the bulletproof. You achieve this zen like I'm going to bed and nothing can touch me. As I mentioned before, there was this great book I read about this woman who's a yoga practitioner, and every time she goes to bed, she has this whole list of yogic types of thoughts and prayers and exercises she does in bed. You can tell she gets excited to go to bed at night because all she wants to do are these exercises. So if she gets in bed and falls asleep quickly, okay, great. She fell asleep quickly. If she doesn't, oh, she's got plenty to do. She's got all kinds of things she can do to utilize that time. Just absolutely fascinating. So, what doesn't work for insomnia is sleep hygiene. Yet, every magazine, every article, every TV show, because we can't listen, we are 172 episodes into the Sleep and Flow podcast, and we do an episode of insomnia every month. And I've got all kinds of ideas for future episodes about insomnia. The point is, we are talking a lot about insomnia. I wrote an entire book that has a lot to do with insomnia. He read it. He's getting ready to read it a second time. The sleep solution, why your sleep is broken, and how to fix it. I don't know if I'd named the book. So that has a lot to do with insomnia and attitudes about insomnia and education about sleep. It's an entire book. So you can imagine when you're a magazine, you've got this much space to write something. You put something on the front, simple tips and tricks to fall asleep fast. That's code for inside this magazine, if you buy it when you check out of the grocery store, we've got the solution to your insomnia, or at least that's how it's read. I've never seen a magazine article that says, here's some nice things you can do to help improve your sleep, maybe 1%, but they're not going to fix your insomnia. I've never seen that on the front of a magazine. Or, hey, coming up next on the news program, we've got some interesting ideas to help improve your sleep. But if you're somebody with significant insomnia, don't bother because they're really only geared to make your sleep a little bit better. I was just up in Strong, New York, talked about it in the last episode of the podcast, and we talked about supplements. Do I take supplements for sleep? Yes, I do. They're made by a company called Natral. Sleep and Restore, no magnesium, but that does have GABA and I'm sorry, no melatonin, does have magnesium, GABA, and botanicals. Do I rely on it to fall asleep? No, I don't. Did I forget to bring them on this particular trip? Yes. Does it make me nervous to go to bed without them? Not in the least. Do I think maybe my sleep tonight will be 95% awesome, but it could have been 96 or 97 had I had the botanical and the GABA and the magnesium? Sure, why not? So this is where we need to get to. That's the robe. That's the Zen, right? I'm bulletproof. Nothing can stop me. Got my supplement, don't have my supplement. So it's sometimes a little bit disingenuous the way we put sleep hygiene out there. It is setting the stage for good sleep. It is the foundation for good sleep. It is not solving a sleep problem. It's brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth every night. You brush your teeth every night. You've got a cavity. Your tooth hurts. Here's some 10 simple tips and tricks for blindingly terrible tooth pain. Tip number one, brush your teeth. No, that's not what you do when you can't even touch the side of your face. The teeth brushing laid the foundation for good oral hygiene. It is not the treatment for the swollen red cheek that you can't even look at without wincing in pain, right? And we lose that. And there's studies to back this up. Look, in 2002, Charles Morin, godfather of insomnia, and his colleagues ran a randomized trial comparing sleep hygiene education to cognitive behavioral therapy. What was the result? Hygiene alone produced virtually no improvement. CBTI significantly reduced sleep onset latency and wake after sleep onset. It's important. That was from JAMA 2002. It's important because imagine SH having never gone through the CBTI therapy that he did. Instead, just a whole bunch of men's health magazines and good housekeeping and real simple and whatever magazine Huffington Post and Thrive, like all these outlets that really kind of focus on great sleep. This is what he's looking to for his therapy for his insomnia. And his insomnia is bad. You can tell it's bad. When you get the email that is, I read your book and listened to your podcast, it's great, but that's bad insomnia. That's basically saying, I love it. It's all great. I get it. It doesn't work. Oh, there's that work word again, right? So basically, using these kinds of tips and tricks not only don't work, but imagine him saying, okay, got to get my temperature in my bedroom down, 65 degrees. Still keep waking up in the middle of the night, can't get back to sleep. So now it not only didn't work, but he's failed what he thinks is the insomnia therapy. Well, I guess I better get these Gosmian pajamas that Chris is always running his mouth about. I got them. I got the cool ones and they fit great. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Hopefully tonight this is going to work. No, it's not going to work. No, it's not for you. It's for me. I've got great sleep. but I want it to be even a little bit better. That's what this is for. You think wearing these pajamas are going to fix your sleep problem? Really? No, 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 no. That's not how this works. Yet we're constantly putting out there. There's another study in 2016, Trower published a meta-analysis of 20 randomized CBTI studies. So he's kind of looking at a bunch of studies and kind of pulling them all together, and showed robust improvements in sleep efficiency, total sleep time, and those effects were durable and lasted months after treatment. Isn't that ironic? Months after treatment. SH's treatment lasted months, and then it's back. He had a relapse, like it's a cancer coming back. Oh God, the PET scan came back, active cells in my femur, and no, it's not how that works. We're all on the verge of relapses, right? It's a label. You've labeled it relapse. I labeled it random Wednesday night. Maybe it'll happen tonight. Maybe tonight I will have the exact same thing happen to me as it did the night before last. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect anything. I don't believe in that. So bring it on. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just be up for a couple hours tonight. I don't care. God, comfortable bed. I'm in this amazing hotel. If you're ever in Charlottesville, stay at the Draftsman. It's a beautiful hotel. They're so nice. They know me here. Here's a little secret about the Draftsman. They have these bookshelves. It's so cool. It's a really cool vibe the way it's decorated. But on the bookshelves, actually, our power went out during a snowstorm, and when I was living here in Charlottesville, and we came here to stay. We basically lived here until we got power back in our house. And they were so nice. I gave them a copy of my book and I signed it to them. And so they've put it out with all these other books in their lobby. So if you stay at the Draftsman, you can find my book. It's The Rested Child, and take a picture of it and send it to me. I'd love to see it. Anyway, so basically, I'm excited to be here and excited to be in the Draftsman bed. And whether I fall asleep or not tonight is not something that worries me. It's a choice, right? I can tell you some things that do worry me. There's a lot going on in the world right now that worries me. Now, maybe if I talked to SH, he would say, ah, I heard that speech that guy gave, and that doesn't worry me a bit, either because I don't think it really ultimately matters, or I actually agree with everything in that speech. You know what I'm saying? Like, we pick and choose what gets at us. And you're choosing to let the fact that you woke up last night in the middle of the night, peed, went back to bed, and didn't fall asleep right away. You're choosing to make that an issue. I don't. And to me, that's what cognitive behavioral therapy is. It's changing cognition. So when you say, how often does CBTI not work? Your definition of work is, I'm never going to have trouble falling asleep or wake up in the middle of the night for periods of time ever again. And if I do, the CBTI didn't work. No, no, no. Work is when you have these things pop up, but you don't really care. There's no email to write because it just doesn't matter. A more recent study, 2021, from Sleep, Edinger compared digital CBTI to sleep hygiene controls in very large samples. Again, CBTI consistently outperforms sleep hygiene, and participants maintained those benefits long after the intervention ended. I mean, does that surprise you? I mean, I think sleep hygiene can work to some extent with somebody who knows nothing about sleep hygiene. Who's that in 2025? Everybody who I talk to who comes to my clinic, every athlete that I talk to when they're on the training table knows a lot about sleep and sleep hygiene. We can put that behind us now. Yeah, there's some little things we can tweak, but I want you to sort of put sleep hygiene in your mind as something you deal with once your sleep situation is situated. It's not the beginning of the treatment of your insomnia. The beginning of the treatment of your insomnia begins with understanding how sleep works. It's impossible not to sleep. Understanding that the average human is waking up 6 to 7 times an hour. Understanding that the definition of great sleep is not somebody who gets into bed and is unconscious quickly. It is not somebody who never wakes up during the night. It's somebody who is at peace with their sleep, has a relatively routine schedule, and feels pretty good the next day. And if you're saying, well, that's my problem, Chris, I don't feel good the next day, I'm exhausted. Well, then sleep at night. Well, I can't. Okay, well, then what does that tell you? You need to go back to listen to sleepy versus fatigued, right? Go back to listen to the 9 P's of insomnia. You know, start over. It takes time. It takes time to develop these skills and these beliefs in a way that are lasting, that are permanent, that are not going to be changed. I just gave a big lecture in New York, and prior to Strong New York, I was up there. And I love to tell audiences, look, hi, I'm Chris. I'm 52 years old, and I'm never going to have insomnia. Never. Not the same thing as saying I will never struggle to fall asleep or I will never wake up and not go back to sleep right away. I'm never going to care. It doesn't resonate with me at all. It's like finding out somebody that I don't know ate half a hamburger for lunch and threw the other half away. How's that make you feel? I doesn't make me feel anything. I don't know him. I don't care that he threw half his hamburger. What do you want me to feel? Why should that bother me? I don't I have no relationship to that. I have no interest in that. It doesn't affect my life. And the only way insomnia works is if you allow it to affect you in that way. So, sleep hygiene, important. Set the stage. Do what's right. Be a pro, like the Phoenix Suns. Be a pro. Get there. Wear the right clothes for practice. Wear the right shoes for practice. Warm your body up like a pro. Get sleep like a pro. Fuel your body like a pro. Address injuries and problems like a pro. Listen to the performance staff like a pro. Do your workouts in the off season like a pro. I can do all of those things. I am capable at this point in my life of doing everything I just said. I could literally show up in Phoenix and do everything I just said. Okay, now out on the court, Chris, you're the three, and you're going to be run. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. You throw me the ball, I can barely dribble. This was why I wrestled in school. I'm a terrible, terrible basketball player. All that foundational work does not make me a great basketball player. All the foundational sleep hygiene in the world does not make you a great sleeper. Get back on the CBTI horse SH. Comments, corrections, criticisms, let us know. What do you think about the new Aerosmith single? Looking forward to a little bit more of a restful October. Hope everybody out there in Sleep Unplugged Nation is doing well. Find me, Dr. Chris Winter, Instagram, Dr. Chris Winter, Twitter, Bluesky Threads. Like and subscribe to the podcast. And until next week, sleep well.